Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Red Pill Podcast 202, and we all know it's been a really spicy week in these markets, hence me sending out 4 extra updates after last week's Red Pill Podcast was released. And I know many of you were appreciative of me going the extra mile to keep our community as up to date as possible. And now we're closing in on wrapping up what might be one of the most dramatic weeks in crypto since the Bitcoin ETF was approved at the beginning of last year in 2024. And I have a really interesting theory to share with you all regarding that. And for those that didn't read my last couple text updates I sent out over the week, or perhaps you're brand new to our community and you're just joining today, which, by the way, welcome to the wolfpack. It's great to have you here with us. But just a quick recap on what transpired over the last weekend was one of the biggest, if not the biggest, crypto liquidation ritual in the history of this asset class. I believe the Bybit CEO said the total estimated liquidations would be as high as $10 billion in a single day, making it the largest single day liquidation event in crypto history, bigger than the Terra Luna crash when UST stablecoin depegged, bigger than the FTX collapse, and even bigger than the C19 pandemic crash in March 2020. Yeah, you heard me right. And you all just lived through it. So before we get into today's podcast, check your pulse. Is your heart beating? Are you breathing? Yes, good. Check. Okay, we're still here. We're still alive. And what you need to realize is that what happened last weekend made you more resilient and made you a true wolf. And judging by the comments I saw in all of my update posts this week, it's clear that we seriously have the best community in the entire crypto space. And I'm not just saying that, I'm 1000% serious. It's amazing how resilient our community is and how we are so focused and how collaborative we became during a moment of peak fear in the markets. So I just wanted to start off today's podcast by saying I salute you. You're all legends, and I'm so grateful for what we're doing here in our mastermind community. It's really rare, and I'm inspired, and just really inspired to see how we all handled it. Now, I know not everyone took this experience the same way, and that's the reason I said what I said in the last update post a couple days ago on the February 7th market update, where I focused on market psychology and exposed the layers to everything that's unfolded since the election back at the start of November in 2024, just a little over 3 months ago. And many of you remember that time because everything was, quote, bullish about the crypto market, coming back to Trump winning the election. That was what it was all attributed to. Then we have him in the Oval Office for 2 weeks. And now the same people that said we're pumping because of him winning back in November are now saying we're dumping because of him implementing the same exact policies he said he was going to implement literally before he won. Seriously, these are the same policies that he talked about before the election in November, which are the policies that his supporters voted for him because of. And everyone here knows already that I'm not political. I don't pick sides. I'm a decoder and, moreover, a philosopher over everything. And I know exactly why the elite use these politicians and technocrats and globalists. Like Carlin says, it's a big club and you're not in it. So how do we thrive when we're, quote, not part of the club? Well, simple. Study the way they maneuver, follow the money, and most important, remember, whenever a camera is on somebody who's famous and it's filming, then they assume the role of an actor. And if that truth hurts your feelings, then you probably shouldn't be an investor, because that's the type of sensitivity that's going to prevent you from being on the right side of this wealth transfer. And I'm not saying this to hurt your feelings or anything. I'm reminding you that this is the Red Pill Podcast, and you're here to transcend these normal belief systems or these limiting beliefs that a lot of people have when they enter a new skill, which investing very much is. Remember, these markets do not care about your feelings. They don't care about your financial situation, and they definitely do not care about your desires. So I'll wrap up this stream of wisdom by saying, if you can't align with that last sentence I just said, then this is your opportunity to work on that then. And what I mean by that is, by being a part of this community here, that's your opportunity to break free from those chains of the emotional tug of war between fear and greed. And we're all here to help each other. So I'm not by any means telling you to quit. I'm not telling you to give up. I'm not telling you that this is the end of your investment journey. What I am saying, though, is you're here with us, so learn from us. Also, you have a library to over 200 podcasts here where you can be going all the way back and tracking each step of how this all went. And I gotta admit, I feel like last weekend, people were more bearish in crypto than what I remember them being when the FTX crash happened. And the reason is why is because we were very low in price. I remember how bearish people got after the SEC Ripple situation where Judge Annalisa Torres deemed XRP no longer a security, and we had that pump and dump. And people weren't nearly as bearish on XRP after it got tugged down from 93 cents down to, what did it hit? Somewhere around the 40s again. Not nearly as bearish as what I realized last week. And XRP is at $2.48 right now. So it just goes to show you that this is a different sport, and you need to learn how it feels to play this sport at the higher levels. And if you're somebody playing football, for instance, or we call it soccer in the States, you do realize that it's quite different for someone like Lionel Messi versus somebody who's like just been playing for 3 months. And I think that's what happens here is people fail to realize that in this sport of crypto investing specifically, it requires some time in the game. It requires some experience. And that's why I went that extra mile all throughout last week, shared those updates, and focused a lot on market psychology and talking about these ideas, especially for those that are newer here, but a reminder to those that have been here for a while. Because I've watched people over the last week capitulate that were here in the 2020 run. They were losing their minds. So don't feel alone. Just remember that if you were somebody that was shaken out in the recent market volatility, there's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame and there's zero guilt here. We're all here to thrive together. And I believe the perfect place to kick off today's Red Pill podcast is by looking at the Fear and Greed Index, which literally did a 360 in a single week, going from the 70s down to the 40s, almost overnight. And that, coupled with the biggest single day crypto liquidation in history, it paints a clearer picture of what's going on here. Especially since this landslide all commenced literally moments after Donald Trump was sworn in on January 20th. And that theory that I want to share with you is tied to this recent event of Trump launching an official meme coin within 48 hours of his inauguration. Then the First Lady, Melania, following suit with her meme coin in arguably the most disgraceful grift in the history of cryptocurrency. People were upset with Hawk Tuah. That's pales in comparison to what just occurred with Trump's meme coin, as today it is down around 75% since the inauguration. And that move that happened for Bitcoin leading into the inauguration on January 20th, to me, which we'll show you on the daily chart so you can see what's going on here. Let me turn off all this noise. That move that happened right here, January 20th, to me is nearly identical to the move that happened on the first official Bitcoin ETF launch, which was over here. So that's the theory that I have, is that this and this are quite similar for a lot of reasons. And we're going to get into that now. So just to kind of share the idea as a concept, it would be comparing the inauguration of Trump and this very bullish, euphoric, short-lived moment to the bullish, short-lived, euphoric moment of the Bitcoin ETF launching at the beginning of 2024. So let's review the structure that came in at the end of 2023, leading into the Bitcoin ETF approval on January 10th, which is this spike up right there. And the structure of the breakout between September into November 2023, and how we had this grind up over here in November 2023 into December, with an initial bullish surge into the month of December. But you can see that at the end of 2023, it was very choppy. Even though it was technically bullish, it wasn't confidently bullish. And why was that the case? Well, because all through November and December 2023 was talks of the Bitcoin ETF. That's literally all you heard for those 2 months if you were in crypto, nothing else. Literally every day you woke up and checked any crypto news or X or YouTube, you saw Bitcoin ETF updates, speculation of when it'll launch, paperwork that was being leaked. I mean, all sorts of stuff. And we even had a fake event happen on X where some big reputable account leaked that the Bitcoin ETF was approved, and it had a very convincing screenshot of some filing paperwork. And it was so convincing that many big crypto exchanges even fell for it, and they started sharing the update on their X accounts, and it turned out to be a hack. I forgot all the details personally, but I'm sure some of you remember this because it was quite recently. It was only a year ago. But anyways, during this whole time frame of November through December of 2023 over here into early January 2024, there was this semi-confident bullish vibe, but not full-blown confidence, because exoterically, all of it was coming down to the official launch of the first Bitcoin ETF. Then on the 10th of January, it's official. We have the ETFs launched and bull trap. As the following day, Bitcoin corrected 15% within 24 hours of the wick top on January 10th, all happening after the official launch of the first Bitcoin ETF. Then the following 12 days, Bitcoin corrected a total of around 20% from this top wick on January 10th until the bottom on the 23rd, which was the full moon, by the way. And this was just enough time for the market maker to confuse retail investors even more. They then waited for all the shorts to pile in here. And then we get hit with a week of chop into early February 2024. Then the train officially leaves the station and we continue the bull run. So all of these shorts over here that built up at the end of January 2024 got liquidated. After all the longs that were placed over here in the excitement of the launch of the Bitcoin ETF, they were liquidated as above, so below, a classic chess move by the market maker. So now, let's move over into today's market that we're dealing with in 2025, a year later. What we have is this recovery structure right here, September through October, a bullish breakout into November. Then after this impulsive move into November, which was perfectly timed with Trump winning the selection, you can see this grind in price up into December. Same vibe as December 2023, what I'm calling a semi-confident bullish rally, which was all in anticipation for Trump to take office on January 20th. And for the market to see how he'll implement the policies he said he'll be moving forward with during his campaign. Then on the exact day of his inauguration, you have the impulsive upside move. And of course, all eyes were on crypto because of the launch of his meme coin. And when you look at the 12-hourly candle, I'm going to show you real quick so you can see for yourself. This is the 12-hour candle into his inauguration, and this is the 12-hour candle after. It's what I call a twin tower structure for obvious reasons. It's a textbook pump and dump ritual that was centered around a cultural moment, just like the Bitcoin ETF. And still to this day, so far, that was our highest Bitcoin price achieved on that day at 109K, short-lived. And since hitting that target, Bitcoin's experienced around a 16% correction into this recent dump that we just had. And it's scarily similar to the way it played out in January 2024 with the launch of the first official Bitcoin ETF. Back then, from the day of the launch to the bottom was 12 days. And let me show you on the daily chart here for comparison. We have from this moment to the dump, it's 14 days. Super close. And consider that in last year's example, it took 17 days from the bottom of that correction until a higher high daily close. So that would be a daily close of 106. If we were to take those numbers and put it into today's market, that would put us somewhere around the 20th of February. Yep, 17 days. Put you around 20th of February. And if you synchronized full moons, maybe some of you remember my wolf moon analysis. I actually made a dedicated Red Pill podcast to that a couple weeks ago. It was the wolf moon decoded And that correction that happened over here in 2024, let me show you real quick with the moon phases, it was perfectly into the full moon. So that was your bullish pivot, or what could be called a micro bear trap. And this was so far the lowest Bitcoin went for the rest of that cycle moving forward. Well, recently we had the wolf moon, February 13th or January 13th. You all probably remember this. And that's so far our lowest price that we've had during this price discovery phase that we're actively in, even lower than where we recently were, which was not the case for a lot of altcoins. A lot of altcoins have went much deeper than this. Some altcoins are actually still back at the early November levels. So it shows you that Bitcoin is very strong right now. It's very dominant. And if we measure from the wolf moon on the 23rd, which was over here, to the top, it was exactly 50 days. If you take from that wolf moon to the absolute top on the 13th, it was the highest daily close. 50 days, and then we traded sideways for 8 months. I believe that this could be very important for us to consider, because if we were to take from our recent wolf moon on the 13th of January over 50 days exactly, it puts you into March 4th, which is not only before our upcoming total lunar eclipse, but it's right around the same timing as the 2017 March top, which is something we've talked about many times over here. If we go back to 2017, we're going to see this shakeout right here. And remember, this was after Trump's first inauguration. We moved up into March 3rd, March 4th, we started to top out. And then boom, we had a much deeper correction into the month of March, followed by a recovery, and we continued up higher. Well, I feel like we're probably very likely mimicking this. And if you look at the Ethereum chart back in 2021, we know that we had the start of our lunar cycle in May 25th, 2021. Let me quickly get over to the Ethereum chart and show you what I'm talking about. Gonna hide everything. Could actually pull back up the moon cycle so you could just know when the eclipse date was. It's right here. It's 25th is the first day of that eclipse. And if we measure backwards to the absolute top at the time, that would have been 13 total days. And 13 days before our upcoming lunar cycle is the very beginning of March, since it's the March 13th, March 14th eclipse. So just keep all of this in mind. And this is not hopium. I literally came out with 4 posts all this week being vulnerable with everyone here, saying that if you're in profits right now and you're in a situation where you absolutely need to protect your capital, then you have to do what's right for you. And also for those that are perhaps new to our community and you've been hearing me talk about the March eclipse a lot lately, then I really hope you also watched my Year of the Snake Decoded, which revisits something that I shared in my crypto decoding blueprint that I released back in June last year. And naturally, I started compiling all that information and everything that's shared within that blueprint from everything that I was reviewing during the beginning of 2024. So the idea that I'm hinting at here, it's called the double peak cycle. It might not be brand new to you. It might be something that you're aware of me talking about for the past year, but I do understand that crypto has got very popular over the past 3 to 4 months, so a lot of people are brand new to my work, and it's completely okay, even though I've been doing this channel now for coming up on 4 years. But this double peak cycle theory, it's an idea that I introduced over a year ago, and it has everything to do with the last year of the snake in 2013, which Bitcoin traded through, and also because in our last solar cycle, we had Bitcoin actually push up through the lunar cycle. Over here, we pushed up all the way deep into the second lunar eclipse of our lunar cycle. That's the first time Bitcoin ever did that, but then still our bear market technically occurred in the lunar cycle, just like it did every other time. Again, if you have never heard of these things that I'm talking about right now, it's all very thoroughly broken down with tutorial videos in my crypto decoding blueprint, which is part of my part of my decoding mastermind. So The second lunar eclipse of our lunar cycle that we're moving into next month will be on September 7th this year. And I talked about this specific lunar eclipse very thoroughly in my Year of the Snake Decoded, so definitely check that out if you haven't already. It's here available for you on Patreon. Especially since I basically decode the most important scenes of the movie Leave the World Behind within that same presentation. And I believe the eclipse that they're showing you in Leave the World Behind, which would be from the vantage point of the moon, the Ring of Fire, would make that a lunar eclipse on Earth. That's why I think, also with the fact that we can tell that it's late summer moving into September timeframe in that movie as well. This makes me feel that they were giving us the total lunar eclipse during the Year of the Snake in September specifically. And I decoded all of that. So again, check it out if you haven't. It's pretty mind-blowing stuff. And another reminder about the second lunar eclipse of our lunar cycle is we also had Ethereum push up higher into this eclipse in November 2021 following Bitcoin's lead. So let me just show you really quickly so you can see for yourself how this all turned out. We had a very standard blow off top for Ethereum over here. Let me turn off these moons and you'll see what I mean. We had a very standard blow off top vibe for Ethereum leading into the start of our lunar cycle, which you saw it's the eclipse that was right here. And then we came up right before the next lunar eclipse and went a little bit higher, just like Bitcoin did. So that means that also the top altcoin can do this too. It doesn't just mean Bitcoin had this isolated situation and that was it. And what might be the most impressive performance during this same time frame that we're exploring right now would be Solana. Just absolutely mind-blowing performance. We're talking about right here. So we had big move up to the start of our lunar cycle. We had some sideways, and then once we got out of the July timeframe, major move to the upside, and it's still topped with Bitcoin and with Ethereum. The dates were nearly identical, okay? So I just showed you 3 examples. One would be Bitcoin, the biggest market cap. Second would be ETH, which is the biggest market cap altcoin. And third would be Solana, which is arguably one of the biggest market cap altcoins and one of the most, I would just say it's like the big success story of the 2021 crypto world. I don't really know how much more to say it, although lately I've been seeing it for what it is, which is just a big meme coin dumpster. But anyways, that's a side note and I want to stay on track here. So anyways, a big reason why I felt that the September lunar eclipse between the March and the September lunar eclipse still gives us room is because of performance we saw in the last bull run. Again, I created the crypto decoding blueprint, went through all of this very thoroughly. I talked about why it made sense for Solana to have this move because it's the black sun. It's the opposite of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is playing like the overall energy of this market. And now Solana is a totally different thing than what it felt like it was back here. But then when we had this huge correction, we learned that it does what every other altcoin does. It loses 95+% of all of its value. And remember what I'm showing you right here, because this will be very important for another theory that I'm going to show you a little bit later in regards to the .com bubble. I think you guys are going to appreciate that too. So needless to say, we had a very impressive move for Solana with a 66% mid-cycle correction in the start of the lunar cycle. So this would be like, imagine Sol moves up one more time and then we make it to the March lunar eclipse, and then around that eclipse during eclipse season, perhaps into April, into May, we go deep. 50%, maybe 40% correction for Solana. I don't think it'll be as much this time around, but we'll cover that another time. Then we bounce perhaps June, July, and then August is really our target month that we're focusing on here, just with the timing of the eclipses. So the lunar eclipse, by the way, that we were talking about for 2021, it was November 18th through 19th, 2021. I urge all of you, if you're into any altcoins that were a part of the last cycle, check out the charts around that time frame and see how it all turned out. And then you could also do the same thing with Bitcoin. And I also have the Bitcoin eclipse cycles chart inside of my crypto decoding blueprint with tutorials teaching you how I created it, and how you can create it too. So the holistic concept here is that if Bitcoin was to follow its previous cycles, not just one cycle, but previous cycles, it would make sense for us to see a true top in the market for crypto around the August new moon in late August and likely experience another major correction in September, which is actually normal for Bitcoin, as September, I believe, there it is. It's really the only month in Bitcoin seasonality where we have a predictable red monthly close. And October and November are considered very positive performing months, which is interesting for this cycle around because we have the upcoming lunar eclipse that we were just talking about in the month of September, early September. Also, regarding September, it's also the worst month for the stock market. These blue bars are just regular years. The red bars are presidential election years. So don't look at the red bars, just look at the blue. Keep that in mind as well regarding September and the fact that we have that total lunar eclipse in September. And with Bitcoin, it seems that March and April are months for tops, call it micro tops, with Bitcoin seasonality also proving that too, especially with April. So could that be the play here where Bitcoin chops around here like in the mid 90K zone? Let me get back. Chop in the mid 90K zone a little longer through the upcoming full moon in February, which is the 13th. Then we have that pivot point, making it up to about the 20th, retesting highs later in this month, and then we extend a little further bullish from the February new moon, just like we did last year in 2024. We also did that in 2021, 2017, and 2013, which is all of our 4-year cycles I just listed. Meaning, cyclically, Bitcoin has a tendency to push bullish through the February new moon for about 5 days up to 9 days before any noticeable corrections. Unless Bitcoin, this is a caveat, unless Bitcoin just shoots up straight away like a crazy green week where we go up 20% in a week, or so. If it's something very dramatic like that on the bullish side and we get to the new moon, then we could have it stall at the new moon, and sometimes it'll top right around that February new moon and experiences a correction immediately in some instances. But overall, what this adds up to is that a majority of the time Bitcoin is bullish into the February new moon. It is not crashing through the new moon unless we're in an absolute confirmed bear market. I just have a hard time accepting that right now because of a lot of things that I've been covering my work over the past 4 to 5 months in preparation for the October solar eclipse that we had. This would be very awkward for this to be the end. And also regarding February new moon, that was the case when Trump got inaugurated the first time in January 2017. We moved up bullish past the February new moon. And it was also the case when Biden was inaugurated in January 2021. So no matter who was in power, exoterically, the left or the right, that's how the month of February played out. And again, this is not Waters Above's opinion. I'm just showing you the patterns and tying everything together as neutrally as possible without picking any sides and being biased. Now, what is my opinion, 100% my opinion, is that the recent move we just had into the inauguration is mimicking the move that we had into the Bitcoin ETF launch. I admit that's 100% my opinion. Except this time around, it was the inauguration. Last time around, it was Bitcoin ETF. With recently the most, quote, crypto-friendly president getting in office. And now people are already making memes saying that Biden was really the crypto president, right? It's just like you can't make this shit up. People always need something to blame. Both are obviously incredibly exoteric events when we're talking about the Bitcoin ETF launch or the inauguration and the ties to the Trump meme coin, etc. And the fact that they are exoteric events for the market maker to ritualize and shake out retail. And both were executed perfectly, I think we could all admit. And now you all know why when I was doing the Trump meme coin decode, I told you it made my stomach hurt. I knew that so many brand new investors would get sucked into that cultural moment, just like the Hawk Tuah meme coin. And what downside level did I show you for that Trump coin during the Red Pill podcast where I decoded it? I'll show you right here. I marked these two levels right around the 1618 to the downside. It was between 15 to 17. We look at what it hit, $16 on the nose. So perfectly into that range I told you to expect. But remember, most investors got trapped in this breakout candle right here around 35 to 75, and most of the FOMO kicked in up here around the 60% to 70, the 60 to $70 level, literally all happening on the day of the inauguration. And by the next day, it was already down 60. And since hitting my downside target, it's lost over 70% of its value since most of his supporters bought in. It's just a slow motion rug. And it's sinister because this dude is literally the most famous man alive. And it's an admitted meme coin. So all the development is done. There will be no devs working on this in the future. The president of the alleged free world literally scammed humanity with a meme coin into his inauguration. It's absolutely classic. And I have zero emotion about this. I told you it before it happened. And for those who want to say, well, it did go up a lot though. Yeah, but for one day. And now it's been down for 3 weeks with literally zero volume. And this wasn't promoted by some, crypto influencer on a niche Telegram group. This was literally promoted by Donald Trump on his official X account. And then they did the same thing for Melania on the day of the inauguration, both with the same outcome. So sure, I guess it's good to have hit the downside target, but I don't feel good about it because I know the effect this had on people who had no clue about what even the blockchain was until the president shilled his meme coin. And now that we've had this recent liquidation ritual, as I said in my last update, I feel we've just experienced what I'm calling a sentiment reset from brand new crypto investors, which would be the Trump rug, or the Hawk Tuah rug that happened. And then we also have all of the terror of all the stuff that's been going on. You already get it, right? And it happened just like that Bitcoin ETF launch early last year. Again, that is 100% my opinion though. And if Bitcoin was to break structure from here and it starts closing back into the previous trading range around 60K, then of course I'll say this time is different. And this did not go how I expected. But until then, I'm sticking to my thesis that we still have higher highs coming in this year. And I do not think that this crypto bull run is over now. And I don't think that this 109K Bitcoin on Trump's inauguration day was the top. And I still think we have at least until late August to see the true top of this cycle. And that's what I've been saying for over a year now. And I have a course I released 8 months ago that proves it. So my thesis doesn't change. But what I do absolutely need to address for everyone here is the energy of the altcoins and how we're seemingly not getting the same alt season that we've seen in the past, at least so far. But we do have to come out and say that Solana is trading at all-time highs. XRP is trading near all-time high for the first time in 7 years. A lot of the coins in that ecosystem have caught up as well, looking very good. HBAR, XLM to name a couple. Even the Dogecoin structure looks really good. I believe it's up like 800% from the bottom of the bear market. So there's context here. I do feel that it has been a alt season. It's just not happening the way that we saw it happen in 2017. It's definitely not happening the way that we saw it happen in 2021. So let's explore that really quickly. And it starts with what I shared in my last red pill regarding Bitcoin dominance, which is kind of wild because I believe I said something about 64% dominance in that podcast. And then literally that crash was happening with arguably the largest wick to the upside that I've ever seen in Bitcoin dominance. I've never seen this before. It's crazy. And then I had my target zone for Bitcoin dominance, which is sitting around 65 to 66%. These two green lines up here. Let me zoom out real quick. So in last week's Red Pill, I revisited that analysis, putting emphasis on the extremes in the range for Bitcoin dominance, which would be 66%. which again would be more on the extreme side of things. I believe I also mentioned that, of course, we could go even higher, but anything past 66% with today's market would likely be due to some serious developments, such as an announcement and implementation of a Bitcoin strategic reserve for the United States, which I know it sounds like a big word salad, doesn't it? But that's the kind of stuff they hit us with after a major liquidation ritual. So I wouldn't be shocked if they actually play that card sometime in the near future. But anyways, one thing that you can consider in regards to Bitcoin dominance from a technical perspective is by looking at the relative strength index by utilizing the RSI. And keep in mind that once Bitcoin dominance gets above 80%, is where it starts to top out. And as we're recording today's podcast, it's around 67. Highest it's gotten so far is in the mid 70s. So ideally, what we would want at this stage is for Bitcoin to recover back above 103K. It's 97 as I filmed today's video. And as it's getting back above 100, moving to 103K, closing dailies back above that level, you'd also want to see dominance climb up with the price just a couple percent more. Filling this wick perhaps to that 64-cent level could be all we need. Ideally by the Solana chain meme coins draining out. That'd be great. And then this move would be the expected setup into March. Then as Bitcoin gets hit by the eclipse energy in mid-March, you can see a momentary rotation into the altcoins to play catch up and stabilize this market. And of course, this is theoretical, but I believe with this recent sentiment reset, it's plausible. And don't you think if the market maker really wanted to play some serious mind games with us, they'd hit us with a very positive event to provide relief and then completely cut the energy off like they did last year after the April solar eclipse. Remember the Great American Eclipse on April 8th, and then Bitcoin went into a horizontal trading range that lasted 8 months. So that's what I mean by us having one more surge of relief, and then the energy gets pulled, and then we go into a boredom phase again. Just an example. Now, to support those ideas a little bit more, I want to show you a couple slides from the presentation I released at the beginning of last November, about 5 days before the election, and that was my Black Moon Decoded. So let me show you that really quickly. Here you'll see a Wyckoff reaccumulation schematic that's effectively covering the entire year of 2024 with an expected breakout into price discovery, which literally happened within a week of me releasing this decode. And where I believe we've recently moved up is right here into this SOS phase, the sign of strength. And perhaps what we're experiencing this past month is the LPS, this small move right here, the last point of support, which is essentially a bullish backtest that pushes us even deeper into price discovery. And considering Bitcoin hasn't even hit 80 on the monthly RSI, and in all past cycles, we topped with an over 90 RSI, it's clear that Bitcoin isn't, quote, severely overbought at this time, especially when considering institutional demand. And when you add the demand of governments, that makes it even more strange to consider that the top is in with this current market structure. Remember, 8 months we had of Bitcoin trading on the top of the last bull runs. Selling a buying climax. Like, let me just take this one step at a time because we're looking at the slide that came after that one. Again, all from this presentation. We had 8 months last year where Bitcoin traded on the top of the monthly resistance from our last cycle, the buying climax. That's literally one of the most bullish structures you can have leading into a price discovery phase compared to our last market cycle in 2021, where we did not backtest the 2017 peak at all. And hence we had this really ugly double top structure that you can see right here and endured the bear market that we did in 2022. You can see what I just explained in this example here. We have a macro Wyckoff reaccumulation schematic, and you see how at the end of phase D, right here, you have this dip before entering phase E. Well, I believe that's what we're experiencing now. And since what I have circled over here is 8 months And from the recent breakout until today is a little over 2 months. I believe that's a very fair comparison when analyzing the length of these particular phases or pivots. And this also tells me that even if we were to go a little bit deeper, correcting now, and I'll show you what the target could be in this case if that was to occur. And again, Sundays have been brutal. Sundays and Mondays for us have been brutal. But let me turn off all of this noise and put on the moving averages so you can see what that possibility would be. It's the orange moving average, the 21 weekly EMA. If we were to come down there and that was the final move for this comparison over here, we could call it the LPS, last point of supply, last point of support, that retest on the 21 and holding that would not be the end of the world. Although it would be pretty brutal feeling. But something that could feel even more brutal would be filling the CME gap before continuing higher. I do admit, let me show you what I mean by that. I do want to discuss that now because that is in the cards and that's not what anyone wants, but that just is what it is. So it's this gap here, 78 to 80K, which I feel if this was to happen either immediately or after the March eclipse, I still believe it would be bought up very quickly. So if this was to happen next week, for instance, which I'm not saying it will, it's less likely for it to, but it's possible, given how bearish everything has been here in crypto world. If this was to happen immediately, or if it was to happen after the March eclipse, I believe it would be bought up very quickly. And that's likely the shakeout we'd need to have the epic alt season many are anticipating. Just like it took the C19 crash for us to see the most insane surge in prices for all of these very speculative altcoins, and the birth of things like NFTs and meme coin mania, etc. Of course, it would definitely feel better if we would push up first before this correction, but with how sinister these market makers are, would you even be shocked if they hit us again with a big shakeout and blamed it on something like they've done with the tariffs, trade war, DeepSeek, etc.? And the reason I'm exploring this scenario is for you to take this concept of protecting your capital seriously. Because like I said in my recent update posts all last week, not everyone is in the same situation. Some people are in profits right now, handsomely, from accumulating back 2018, from accumulating in 2022, from accumulating at the bear market bottom, 2023, and they still haven't de-risked. Some started investing at XRP when it was below 25 cents, like me, and they still haven't sold a single XRP, but we're now up almost 1,000% from their entry. And all I'm saying is if you need the money and you're banking on this whole quote-unquote bull run thing and you can't afford to sit through another violent correction, then there's nothing wrong with protecting your capital during times of uncertainty. And that's clearly what the market is feeling right now, uncertainty. We got this Trump thing going. He's in office, but every decision he's making is driving more uncertainty to the economy. Now, of course, it would be great for this to play out like it did the month after the Bitcoin ETFs launched at the beginning of last year, where we've made it through that correction, made it through the bear trap, and now we're going to pivot bullish into March, right before the lunar eclipse, and see that surge in price for the altcoins. But we also need to be aware of all things that are considered right now on the world stage and how many rituals have been playing out way bigger than just cryptocurrency. Look at the fires that happened in Los Angeles. I mean, it's unbelievable, right? Historic things have been going on. Weather events, whether they're quote unquote real or not real, pretty wild past couple of years, we all have to admit. And it doesn't seem like they're going to slow down. It only feels like it's going to get more and more epic as we progress through the year of the snake. It's only been a couple weeks of Trump in office, and it's already felt like a brand new, kind of take on what this whole thing called being a president is, especially with what Elon has been allowed to do, talking about wanting to put the treasury on the blockchain. I mean, this is fucking madness. It sounds like everything in the Aquarian wet dream. Like, absolutely 100% spot on for what you would imagine with these globalist technocrats. And Trump is just there pretty much giving it the go-ahead. It's hilarious that people thought that it would go differently, but here he was. within a couple of days of being sworn in, talking about making US the crypto and AI capital of the world. Clearly very pro AI and humanoid robots. So I don't know what to tell anyone at this point. It's just part of the way it's scripted, and we're living through that script. So, of course, it would be great for having this to play out like it did in last year's Q1, where we get that push up into March. But we have to also consider that, are we open emotionally for a full 4-year cycle to play out? For example, like how we topped in November of 2013. We topped 4 years later in December of 2017, and then again last cycle in November of 2021. Perhaps Bitcoin does actually go higher into November and December of this year, but we have 20 to 30% or even a little bit deeper corrections along the way. Instead of the 30 to 40% corrections we had during the 2017 run, or the 80% correction we had during the 2013 run, or the 55% correction that happened here in the last bull run of 2021. So to provide clarity, I'll wrap this up with a little theory that I have. Perhaps you'll resonate with it, perhaps you won't. But it's considering the dot-com bubble back in the year 2000. And I want us to look at the Amazon chart to just get an idea, provide you with something visual while I share this theory. So we're looking at Amazon. Going to turn off these moving averages. We're on the weekly chart. We're zooming out, and you're going to see this moment over here. The dot-com bubble distributional top that popped in the beginning of 2000 for Amazon. Now, imagine in our last crypto cycle that peaked in 2021 that this was comparable to the dot-com bubble popping. Why? Well, we had the NFT craze, DeFi, the first epic meme coin run, then the collapse of Terra Luna, the collapse of FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried going to jail, the crash of FTT, and collapse of FTX causing the fintech companies tied to it to collapse, like BlockFi, Celsius, and a couple others. And even the former CEO of Binance, who was always the talk of the town back in 2020 and 2021, who went by the name CZ, he went to jail. So all things considered, that's very dot-com bubble-esque, because crypto was way more popular in 2021 than it was in the 2017 alt season. And the on-ramps into crypto were way easier in 2021 as well, compared to 2016 and 2017 and early 2018. Anyways, I believe I've provided enough foundation with this example, along with many other things that I said scattered throughout the earlier part of today's podcast. So let's just entertain for this theory that 2021 for crypto was the dot-com bubble popping. And the Amazon chart that we're looking at right now, I feel that Bitcoin is in around 2010 moving into 2011. So we've broke the top of the prior cycle. Imagine here, 2021. Bitcoin has recently broke the top, and we're now in this moment here where we back tested the prior top. I already showed you this. It was over here. Back tested the prior top. And we're moving into this 2011 time where we're clearly in price discovery. And then what happens is we start getting hit with 30% corrections, and then we're stable. You can see this just moves up and up and up and up and up with 30% corrections over and over and over again. We'll see one right here, July 2010. That right there is a 30% correction. I can measure it out to prove it to you. Then we have over here another 30% correction. Then we have over here another 30% correction. Then we have over here another 30% correction, over here another 30% correction, and then we topped when? Before a very big correction. Well, that was 2021. Same as Bitcoin. And this was Amazon's biggest correction. I believe it was 55%. Yep, this was Amazon's biggest correction since the housing market crash of 2008 during the subprime mortgage crisis. So think about this, guys. What if that correction for Bitcoin into 2022, which was a 77% correction, was the deepest correction we get for the foreseeable future? And Bitcoin only gets 30 to potentially 50% corrections as the absolute wipeout crashes, making people think we'll go the full 70 to 77% like we did in 2022, but it just doesn't happen. And instead, Bitcoin mimics the macro Amazon chart or the macro Apple chart. You can look at that as well. I'll quickly pull it up without taking too much time today on this. So we're looking at Amazon. Just look at the '08 crash in Apple. My bad. This is your '08 crash in Apple, and then we have around 30 to 40% corrections over and over and over again. Just continue up. None of this sideways shit, none of these like crazy 80% wipeouts anymore. It's just up, 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 up with 30 to 40% corrections along the way. That's my theory for how this will play out for Bitcoin moving forward. So for those people that are listening that are like, wait, Waters, I thought we would top in August, September, and then we would, like, it's impossible for us to go higher in November. Might not be the case if we are now mature enough in market cap to no longer experience those 70% moves anymore. Now, will those moves happen for altcoins? Yes, 1,000,000,000%, I believe that. But I'm talking about Bitcoin right now and what this could be turning into for the future, where we don't ever see crazy surges in Bitcoin price without a 30% correction in the midst of it, and then we just stair step up over and over instead of having these blow off tops. I think in the last cycle we proved that maybe blow off tops aren't to be expected for Bitcoin anymore, and what we should start expecting is what we've been seeing lately, which is these stair steps up the ladder. Let me just show you really quickly what I'm talking about here. Where we have just shelves of price, and then we keep moving up the shelf. Here was one, and we're potentially forming another one, which might have another rally in the short term, another even higher rally into August, as I mentioned earlier. But we actually hold that shelf for, it could even be the next 16 months. And then when it corrects deeper from the higher levels, we only fill out maybe down to 70s or high 60s, which if we can entertain what a 150K Bitcoin down to around a 60K Bitcoin, that'd be a 60% correction. This 55% correction would put us at 67K. I don't think that that's a bizarre or weird theory, that this could be what we're moving into. So that's my theory for how Bitcoin play out moving forward, especially after this next lunar cycle, which will be shorter like the one back in 2019. It'll actually be shorter than the one we lived through recently. So this upcoming lunar cycle will be short and sweet, and that's music to the ears of long-term investors, which I hope most of you are, because this Aquarian economy is just getting started. And if you were investing in crypto before 2020, then you're like the ones that got in before the dot-com bubble mania. And by the way, I still think we're in a major bubble across the board, by the way. But I gave you what I believe is a realistic example for how this could turn out for Bitcoin and the other cryptos that are meant to transition into the Aquarian economy, such as the ISO 222 compliant projects. Now let's go over into the charts for Bitcoin and our altcoins to do some more traditional analysis for the setup into our weekly close and what could be one of the biggest betting weekends of the year for Super Bowl Sunday today. I think that's definitely important to bring up. So we're going to kind of keep things drier here today because I don't have much data to work with after these candles that we've developed. We're just holding structure for Bitcoin, and we've been getting wiped out with weird late Sunday night into early Monday morning events. So because of my schedule and the timing of this, if I needed to release it on my schedule and to get it out by Sunday, this is the window of time I'm working with. I'm not going to adjust just because of what the New World Order is up to. I'm not going to live my life that way. That's insane. And I tell everyone the same, like even if you can't watch my podcast on Monday or you can't watch it on Tuesday, that's totally fine. Like, live life, man. That's what matters most. So I need to do the same, and I'm working 14 to 16 hour days. I barely take any days off. I'm sure you all respect the grind. but I still am doing everything in my power, to release these on time and on schedule. And I'm not just going to sit around and wait for a theoretical move that could occur because of whatever's happening on the world stage, such as the Super Bowl tomorrow. Now, we're looking at the weekly, and this is definitely an indecision candle. We can see here this indecision candle shows it's not quite a doji, but we're pretty close. And naturally, it might be good for us to get bought up a little bit more into this upcoming weekly close. Getting back above 98.2 would be good. I mean, just closing green would be ideal, but this kind of closure isn't that bad because we see a lot of absorption to the downside, which is what we saw all throughout the end of November and pretty much still to this day. Look at all this absorption on the tails of these candles. It's becoming a norm, and that was the same shit we dealt with over here. Also in this breakout as well, lots of absorption before moving up. So this was the ETF launch week that I'm comparing. Again, big shakeout candle with lots of absorption before a reversal. So likely to go that way. Again, I'm not betting on anything at this time. I think anyone who's working with leverage, you should probably hold off because this is an insane market across the board. And this is a very big betting weekend in general. So the New World Order knows this. They know where the attention is, and it's all on the Super Bowl. And I believe Trump is even going to the Super Bowl. So who knows what the fuck, that's going to turn into. But needless to say, let's keep the technical short and sweet here. Get into the altcoins. We're looking at the weekly chart with the EMAs on. We have the 13 holding, looking good. We have the posture also bullish, where it's the 13 above the 21 above the 34. I'd like to see that. We haven't tapped on the 21 yet, which it's fine. We don't need to. We can go a very extended period of time without back testing it, but if we do tap it, we want to hold it on a weekly close. So again, if they hit us with some weird shit after I'm done recording this, and for whatever reason they drain us down, that's the level, man. That really matters. And filling the CME gap to the downside would be a kiss on the 34, and I do feel that that should hold. We did actually close below that EMA in September 2024, but I believe it was a perfect bear trap because a lot of people didn't know about the solar eclipse that was coming in October. A lot of people on the world stage have no idea about this stuff that you guys have access to here. So we see the same effect back at the August timeframe leading into October 2023, which, by the way, it was a solar eclipse. Anything below that 34 EMA was a gift. Every time we went below it, it was a gift. After this crossed bullish. Obviously, the end of the bull run would be when the EMA band that I'm showing you here crosses bearish, which means the red line flips above the blue line. That was confirmed over here in April 2022. You could see the red on the top, the blue on the bottom. Now, of course, that's a lagging indicator, so you wouldn't want to use that to time getting out of the market. But this move right here was the absolute, like, get the fuck out moment where you see it flip and you know you got to get out because the altcoins are going to lose everything. I mean, we're not even close to there yet. We're looking pretty damn good. And if we were to repeat this moment right here, just to give you guys some additional information to consider, where we had like 240 days from the absolute top until we started breaking out again. Well, if we were to put that timing on, that puts us right into around August, like literally late August. So what does that say? Considering. I'm just saying, if they're going to do something weird in February, which is not normal, there you go. Still puts us on time. Not what everyone wants to hear, but this market isn't about what you want. All right, daily's looking a little bit sketchy for sure because we've had this band flip again, but it's more over probably the wolf cross that's alarming here. Although we did get this momentary wolf cross in December, we got the momentary wolf cross over here in January on the full moon. So this isn't the end of the world, but what this does tell me is it would be good for Bitcoin to now get back above all of our EMAs on the daily chart, which means 100K. If Bitcoin could get back above 100K, close a daily candle above 100K, we're looking pretty good. And there's a couple of fractals that I was messing around with. I'm not sure where they are, but I might have deleted some. But there has been a couple fractals that have been playing out. Also here, this falling, sorry, let me take these moving averages off so you can see what I mean. This falling resistance line that we've been getting and this back test that we've been having for like the past week on the outside of this prior resistance, where we have our top in December, lower high in January, another lower high in January, the end of the middle of January before the breakout. After breaking out, failed rally, and then returning back to the same trend line, and we've been holding it as a support. That's pretty damn good to see. Again, trend lines are really tough when we're in crypto. Like, they're really tough when we're in crypto. It's not the same as when you're doing Forex. It's definitely not the same as if you're doing stocks with a lot of years of data. Crypto is just way too volatile, especially when it's tied to cultural moments like Trump meme coin and this kind of shit. So we do have a structure that's showing that there's a lot of selling pressure coming in on Bitcoin. But what I've been also realizing is as it's leaving retail wallets, it's getting absorbed by large long-term wallet holders, and institutional buying is higher. So what does that mean? It's just all of this fucking shit that's happening in crypto is just going into the hands of the whales. That's a clear sign too, to be very considerate of. Those people wouldn't want to be accumulating if this is the top. They would only want to be shaking you out so you're out of position so they could have more coins, so they could send the market up with the keystroke of the Federal Reserve, printing trillions of dollars at any second. It's all just fairy dust at the end of the day. So technically, we're not looking too rough until we start breaking below this 92.7 level. If Bitcoin starts closing below 92.7 on the daily, that's definitely a warning sign. And as for the weekly, we have to consider this weekly structure of 93. So generally, if Bitcoin starts closing below 93K, that's not a good signal. Let's look at Ethereum. There we go. Okay, we have one of the examples where trend lines are very powerful, and it's on Ethereum. Like, this is one trend line that's been in play now for what, 1,000 days? Yeah, fucking almost 1,000 days, 966 days. We get this wipeout below, but we have since been bought right back above on our weekly structure. So that's good to see. And we know that this has been our rejection line resistance time and time again. We've been dealing with this shit now for fucking 2 months. So what we would want, of course, naturally is a bounce here, back test, and then breaking, I think, minimum this level. So around 3,450 up to the 3,750. Breaking above that would be pretty nice, but we still have this like macro triple top that we're dealing with. So keep that in mind. ETH looking weak, but on this buyback kind of makes it look strong, and it really cements the power of this trend line. And it would be unbelievable if we really do break down from here. And final thing to say about ETH, we haven't even had a fucking all-time high yet. So is that how they're going to end this bull run, with no new all-time high in ETH? Like, wild. Would be a totally different cycle to not even see price discovery in ETH, I mean, I could see if they stuffed out XRP, because that's kind of like very popular community tied to it. Like the lawsuit has kept it popular too. But like ETH doesn't have that shit going. And a lot of the speculation that it's not the ETH show anymore because it's the Solana show, I'm like, sure. But from following the money, I'm almost certain that if they wanted to tokenize the stock market, they would do it on ETH. Just my thoughts. And because I've like read the fine print on some of this stuff that's going on with LIBOR and Ameribor, and yeah, it's pretty interesting. I'm not entirely sure this would be the end. That would be the way they ended the cycle, with no ETH ultimate. It'd just be crazy. Like, again, I'm not coping right now. I would be shocked. I would really be shocked. But when I'm seeing all this bullish short-term moves with Bitcoin, like all of this pressure here, this is clear that there's bots running this market, and they're doing everything they can to prevent this market from entering a price discovery mode, like kind of what they do with silver. Now, let's look at XRP. This is a really fascinating fractal that I found. I'm not trying to say that it's going to play out exactly, but it's matching up the move that we had back here. I think I have it isolated for you guys to see. All right. So it's after the SEC dump. So SEC lawsuit against Ripple, dump, isolated event. During this time, though, from the dump to the top was still a 1,000% move. So this sideways shit that we had was just everything leading into when Bitcoin finally broke out in November. Then what we have is a high, and then we have another high. And then look at the way that this drowns out. The way that this drowns out over here for me with a high, slightly higher high bull trap, then a failed rally, and the way that it sells off with this big wick over here is very reminiscent to what just happened. Let me turn off all the drawings and show you. So we have high, higher high bull trap, and then it just sells off in this really arduous shakeout with this big downside wick. So a liquidation ritual. That's how I feel this is playing out right now. Post isolated event, which was all about the lawsuit. We've recently had a bunch of isolated events tied to the lawsuit. You all, if you're in the XRP community, you know about it. I'm not going to bore you here, but I feel like that fractal is likely. And what we're moving into now is this kind of chop to release. So if I was to show you now on the fractal so you can get an idea of how it's mimicking. Let me move this to the back. I could try, or I can make it lighter so you could see. Yeah, I think making it lighter helps. And then also I'll put it to the back. Oh, it's there already. Okay, so you see we had this big liquidation event already. Now we're just chopping, and then it starts to keel over a little bit around the full moon. And then it releases more back tests around early March. That right there is an interesting play, because if we were to have that play out, I want to warn everyone that there's nothing wrong with de-risking if you're not believing in this rally. So if we get up to 3, I just warn you that 3 is probably going to be a resistance. The only way it would not be a resistance is if there's something insanely positive that comes out specifically for cryptocurrency. I don't even think something specifically for XRP could maybe I should be very careful with that, because I know like Brad Garlinghouse is potentially going to be selected to be on some fucking committee for crypto with Trump, and like maybe that's the thing. But it would be way different if like Trump came out and straight up said like XRP something positive. It would go up in a straight line for sure on speculation. I'm not saying it'll be a sustained rally. I still think that another impulsive move is ahead. Okay, so if I could just break everything down into plain English, an impulsive move up for XRP at least into like 4 to 5 is in the cards, somewhere around 450. Although I do think if we get up to 3 soon, we can get rejected and chop a little bit more of a grind, and then get a true release. Now, I'm not entertaining this second part of the fractal. I'm just thinking about how rare it is to see XRP make a high and then make a higher high and then break down. It's not a very common structure. Usually what we see for XRP is the initial highs are the highest we get, and then we go lower. Initial high, lower. Initial high, lower. Initial high, lower. Initial high, lower. We don't typically do a move higher first and then go higher after, and then that's the end. Even the end of alt season for XRP was a high first, lower high. High first, lower high, dump. This was the flare airdrop shit. But in this example, I feel like there's similarities, and it's because of the way it dropped down, the big liquidation event right here. And then I think we're going to grind a little bit, because XRP went up too fast too soon. Like, look at the fucking breakout here, guys. This was unbelievably 27 days of just straight God candles. This is not sustainable, okay? This is why I've been putting emphasis on having a move up to that like 6 to 7 range as the max before seeing a major correction for XRP. I do entertain higher targets, potentially as high as the mid-20s, but it's going to take some major shakeouts in the midst of all of that. And where does that come from? It comes from the analysis that I've been sharing in this chart. Let me try to get to it. I've been moving around some of my charts just because I've been having issues with TradingView lately. I know I'm not alone in that. It's been insane. Oh, there's a lag. There it is. So what I'm talking about right now is just a really popular chart that I've created. It's doing, its rounds on X and many other places. So that was what I meant. If we were to make it up to have a very dramatic surge higher into like the $14 plus territory, or let's just say into double digits, I do think it'll be met with a major correction, 70%. At this time, I would be, I mean, a 70% correction would be back to 80 cents. I mean, that would be breaking lower than phase three. And what I love about phase three is we just back tested it recently on this wick. That was the same shit we did over here, guys. If I zoom in, you'll see what I mean. You see that little wick right there? If you look at the left of my cursor, you see we back tested the top of phase three. And then we just said, fuck you, went higher. So, I mean, if we zoom in here and we see the top of phase three, we've backtested that shit a couple times now. And if we look at the bottom of that wick, we're pretty much confirming that that was a backtest. And we could say that's a confirmation now, I think, effectively, if we get another weekly close higher than 260, which I don't think will happen this week. But if we get a higher close than 260, that to me just seems like we had a liquidation ritual isolated to XRP that was over leveraged longs. And that's actually, guys, I want to say something real quick, and this isn't again for hopium, but like XRP starts getting popular on big channels, like the big influencer channels. That's when the leverage shit starts opening up for XRP, and that's unhealthy. And those guys usually wait until we're higher. You know, that was the same shit that was happening in 2021. Like, we had Bitcoin maxi channels just start talking about XRP after it was already up. That brings a lot of attention into it, especially when these people have like hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of followers, you know? I'm not saying that that's something to blame or to point fingers at, but I think you feel where I'm coming from with this. From a leverage perspective, that's what all the big channels do. They only leverage trade. That's a big part of like their thing. So I'm not, whatever it is, what it is. I'm just saying that I think we need to be considerate of this. And now when we're looking at this chart, we can see that this was a support zone back test, and we're now holding it. We've swiped through this like a hot knife through butter, got bought right back up. Now we had some days of, you know, sort of filling in partially this wick, but I do have to say that I think it would be weird for us to fully fill in this wick. I'm fairly confident, about 70% confident, that this is as far as we go. And then if we are to come up to like maybe only 270 and drop again, this $2 zone should hold pretty well. Again, it would be weird for us to just start breaking down now for the entire crypto market and for Bitcoin to go down to 70 or 80K. It'd be weird. But if we're going to do it, we were going to do it anyways. We were either going to do it in after March or we're going to do it now. So it's like, pick your poison, pick the speed of how you want the Band-Aid ripped off. I just personally feel that there's one more impulsive move ahead for XRP. And let me know if you guys think that I'm the only one who thinks this out of the respected analysts that you guys follow. Because if I am alone and I'm like living in my own little world over here thinking that a move up to 4 is in the cards before another correction, let me know. Because I don't watch any other people who are doing, you know, this stuff. I try to keep it to my own analysis. I try to not get too biased here. Or persuaded by what other people are doing, but it's not me saying that there's not other great, amazing analysts and traders out there. I know there's many, probably far better than me, actually. They probably spend a lot more time in crypto than I do. I don't. I do this part-time crypto stuff. I put most of my energy into other bigger picture things. And I launched my new university recently, which has definitely been a passion project of mine, and that's what makes me feel more alive. What we're going to do with life way beyond this digital screen with green and red candlesticks going up and down, you know, like there's more to life is what I'm trying to say. So I'm not 100% full-blown crypto influencer guy. It's clearly not my vibe. So yeah, if there's no one else out there that believes another impulsive move is ahead, let me know, but I'm pretty sure I can't be alone in that. Structurally, it doesn't make sense. The timing of the year, it doesn't make sense. The events that we just had unfold, it doesn't make sense. We'll leave it at that. All right, we're looking at Swift Coin. I don't remember the last time I checked this out or if I've ever checked it out, but let's get to it. Okay, I got some fibs here. Cool. We're going to look at this on the 3-day just so I could get all... Ooh, okay, so huge horizontal trading range that went on for like 2.5 years, starting back in 20... Oh, no, way longer than that. What the fuck? From 2018, this thing didn't even really have like a a true price discovery event until recently. So very fascinating. It's like trapped in this horizontal trading range for quite a while, since 2018, and then recently it's been released. Now, we had this move up into March with Bitcoin of 2024. Chop, bull trap, followed by a pretty deep correction into the August new moon, which Bitcoin did the same thing. So this gets dragged down with Bitcoin too, clearly. Then it rises through the election cycle, pretty dramatic correction here, into the wolf moon. So Swift is following moon cycles. We could clearly see that here. And then a nice move up, 350% shit. So it could also be waving down as well. Like what we're doing now, it could just be another wave down. But this type of distributional top that happens around the 888 or golden pocket is actually pretty convincing, because if we do come down to the 618, that's a buy. So just off of that technical move is a 700% gain. No use for trend lines on charts like this. You can see it looks like a fucking lie detector test. So there's no structure here. It just eventually got released. So there were all the sell pressure, all the shorts that were piled up against it just got taken out, and finally it had its moment of glory. But really, when you look at this, a 700% move followed by a 70% correction, followed by another 700% move, followed by what already has been a 60% correction. Like this type of chop is very hardcore. And the fact that we hit the technical 1618, I just don't know how much higher this can go. But remember, we're in crypto land. So if we are to have a true alt season, we could entertain. Oh, it's already made it up to the 6. Fuck. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of done the move. And you know, if I tell you, I bet it's 2000%. Yeah, dude, on the money, 2000. So yeah, I mean, anything over 2000% from like around the 236 is just like, yeah, this has done it. You know, like if you accumulated this shit and you're sitting in a 1500% or 2000% profit right now, like it's just idiotic to not de-risk, you know? Like it's just not, especially in this current market, it's too fucking sketchy. So I would just say do what's right, you know, de-risk a little bit up here. You already are up 1000%, you know? So take your risk out of this gambling casino. Yeah. Now, as for additional targets up, this is a pretty large swing. I think we can maybe double click, maybe get to the 4-2. This fucker's done it. Yeah, like it's already toast. It's toast. It's done so well. Like 89. Yeah, like it's done so well. 91 RSI on the monthly, man. It's done so well. That's it. 510% monthly candle. Like, what more do you like? Yeah. So this is the kind of stuff when I look at it, I say like, it's a wrap. You know, like, yeah, we could go much higher later into the year, but at this time, especially while there's so much uncertainty and so many people just want guidance and they want to know, like, what do I do? You know, if you're in profit on this shit. Now, would I be buying this? No. Like, I would not personally buy this at this level, even if it went up a little higher. It's just, I can't be convinced to buy something that's in price discovery to the upside. Now we're going to move over to Spell Token. Okay, polar opposite. We see this as clearly not really in conversation. Turn off all the noise. Blow off top back in November 2021. Been still pretty down. 97% down. So yeah, not looking beautiful, but there was some opportunity to get below this trend line all of last year, still about 100%. I mean, it's way better than the stock market, but here in crypto, these things are pretty lackluster. This chop right here, though, I have to say, it can't chop much longer, can it? Like, once this chop phase is done, this shit can move up in a straight line, like 1000% in like a couple weeks. You know, I mean, look at this. Look at the red line, dotted red line across the street, across the screen. I said street. You see where this is? Now, if I showed you, we were at the same fucking price back in September 2021. And this thing went up 2000% in 28 days. So in 1 month, this went up 2,000 fucking percent. It could do that same thing. That's the kind of thing that crypto does, like just randomly out of nowhere. The timing of the chop is really tough to determine. That's why in altcoins, it's more like if it's hip, if it's like a cultural moment, if it's something like that, then you'll get more excitement. But more excitement means more like pump and dump vibes. Whilst this has given you a chance to accumulate for almost 1,000 days, similar to ETH. It's probably tied into that energetically in some ways. But then we could just have a release of energy, and that would be with Bitcoin dominance breaking down. And this thing could easily go up 1,000% in a couple weeks. So really the technical play here is I would be aiming for at least a 1 cent spell this cycle, which will be putting us into the upper range of the golden pocket. To me, that's definitely possible. Entertaining price discovery right now is a very dangerous thing, I feel, because of the state of the crypto market and how uncertain it is. So I don't want to like feel like there's anything like kind of convincing people that we're going to do this explosive alt season. Like you all have to admit also that most of the coins that I talk about, I'm just entertaining around the 888 fib. I don't even really entertain a lot of the time price discovery. With my analysis, I've just been talking about returning into these levels, and for a lot of projects that's at least 1,000% move, and in some it's 2,000%, like in the Filecoin example. So this is very similar. This is one of those that, like, in comparison to the last project, I wouldn't feel so weird having a 1% allocation to spell, just like I did with like File. I made like a 1% allocation, maybe even less, because it's venture capital. You don't want to put too much in it. We're looking at Alchemy Pay. Very sharp, very steep decline on this. Oof. Yeah, so this is down 50% in like 1 week. Hell of a chop here. We got, mamma mia. So it really loves this level. Let's draw that line across the screen. We're going to put a horizontal ray. It loves this level of 5 cents. You can see bull runs, buying climax, return, bounced off of this with a wick, bull trap, came right back to it, failed rally, started to show weakness, and then from that level was an additional 85% drop. Then literally on the automatic rally gravitated perfectly to it, another drop, perfectly to it, another drop, perfectly to it, another drop. So this is turning out to be a macro W pattern, and what that means in plain English is if this shit can hold the 382, come back up, maybe get rejected one more time to really like fuck everyone over who's looking at the chart on this, and then you have your major backtest and pop up to what would be like a sign of strength, because I don't really feel like I could say any of this was a sign of strength. It's just an automatic rally and upside supply tests, which are clearly met with shorts. So, yep, that's kind of the play here. And then to entertain higher levels than this is a little hard with this type of chop that we've had since the launch of this project. So this is still trading at the same level that it was on the day it launched. So not price discovery. Actually, it's in price discovery to the downside, if that's the true price. Major spike move, very concerning, I'm sure, for those who are like big bag holders, but for those who treat this the way it should be treated, which is venture capital, not so rough. Although got only about 270 to 500% move for the technical play, and I guess if it can make it over 14 cents with a weekly close, this could enter price discovery. I mean, it's not far-fetched. All right. Entertaining $2 Alchemy Pay is a little bit tough at this time, but if we're gonna get that move for XRP, for instance, like double digits, then yes, that could make it to those levels. But for right now, the 38-cent level is probably possible for Alchemy Pay, and that would be kind of like the move of just getting a slightly higher all-time high, similar to what happened with what was it, Cardano. Pretty sure that's how Cardano's last cycle went. Apologies if I'm misleading you guys, but I believe I'm right. Let me just check. Yeah, exactly. Like you see Cardano's high, and then it like only went 130% higher. So I was correct about that comparison of like what I think could happen for Alchemy Pay. So like 130% higher than that move. would be like the Cardano structure, and 130% higher from here would be like, 60 cents, 55 cents. I mean, shit, that's a pretty good move, right? Like, you can't be complaining about that, right? Yeah, be a hyper extended a little bit above the 1618. So I think de-risking should go on like 35. Not de-risking, sorry. I think profit taking should be going on around 35. Because hoping for that 55 cent is like hoping that it replays the Cardano move. And I don't know if like this market has it in store for these types of projects. It needs to be stuff that's part of a major narrative, major players, banks, kind of institutional ties, etc., which perhaps I'm completely ignorant and Alchemy Pay is, but yeah, it's not my job to know about every single altcoin. That'd be physically impossible. I do 4 to 5 altcoins every single week for 52 weeks out of the year. You do the math. That's not what I do. There's plenty of other people out there that'll teach you that stuff. So Alchemy Pay, not the worst situation. Maybe the spell token was looking a little bit more my style, but like again, when we're this late in the cycle, it's all venture capital. Okay, Saucer Swap. What a fucking name, Sauce. It's like a couple of people in college were like, "Yo, bro, let's fucking make sauce. Let's make Sauce Swap." God damn, there's no class in this market. Anyways, mind-blowing melt up over here from the August solar eclipse to the March, yeah, right before the eclipse, the Great American Eclipse, excuse me. Sorry, we're deep into the podcast. I'm doing my best to stay on track here. So then we've had like almost another bear market in the midst of this, because what's this correction add up to? Yeah, this thing went fucking 88% down during this move. So it's already had a bear market within its first initial price discovery phase. So launches, pretty substantial correction, wild W breakout, buying climax, selling climax, automatic rally, and now it's bounced to the 236, which is a perfect technical play, meaning plain English. If we could hold here, we're either going to do something like this, like an inverted head and shoulders, and then we have an SOS, and then this can continue its price discovery dependent on, all things we've talked about earlier. But that's the kind of play I would see here. Although distributional tops tend to not be the most beautiful structure on the reversal, especially when you're looking at this type of altcoin chart that barely has any data. So just keep that in mind. The 236 is a very good level though to backtest, like the very technical level. We could see multiple swipes, this rejection, and then now coming back to it. It should be pretty concrete now. This is good. Although we could have one of these where we just swoop up, backtest on the 382, and then come back into this zone of the golden pocket, which is very, very important level for sauce. What type of sauce is sauce? It's barbecue. Some like sriracha mayo. Like, what's the sauce? What is the sauce? It's green. Fuck that, dude. Green sauce is, I think you want it. Saucer? Oh, like a UFO? God. This is like exactly why. Yeah. The angels are looking down at me from heaven, being like, Waters, bro, what the you don't get the plot. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm Patrick Starr and I live under a rock. Is it saucer, like with the UFO, or is it like mayonnaise? Like, which one is it? Anyways, yeah, whatever. This chart is pretty volatile and very tough to discern, like what are the pivot points going to be, because it's just so choppy. And I'm not personally the biggest fan of this stuff, but yeah, consider that you could play around with this quite a bit. I'm just not sure this is going to be the most convincing. Let me wrap it up by saying this. It will continue to have 70 to 80% corrections after doing these major upside moves, and get used to that with this project. It's probably going to chop like that for a while. Next big target though, maybe into August, would likely be a double top, because that's how a lot of these things end up. Could be wrong, but like that could be the play here where we just double top. Or it's like the Bitcoin double top in the last cycle where it just goes a little bit higher, like literally 27, 28 cents. And then it very, very deep correction, because this isn't going to be anything in the Aquarian economy. It's just something to have fun with. Okay, let's move on to final, really quick Bitcoin Cash. We're about an hour and a half into today's podcast. It's been some time, I think, since I've covered this absolute shitcoin, but we're having fun anyways. Bitcoin Cash, I cannot believe is still even a thing. Yeah. So again, context here is fun because this was when Bitcoin was 20K. Bitcoin today is 97K. This is when Bitcoin was 69K, or sorry, 64K, 63, 64K. Notice it's lower, by the way. This is when Bitcoin, 20K Bitcoin, 64K Bitcoin, 97K Bitcoin. It's just like, it's been perpetually the stupidest Bitcoin alternative decision. I don't know why this even, anyone cares about this. But I know the Bitcoin Satoshi Vision people are kind of, maybe they don't necessarily believe in this either, but like those are the ones that keep all of these alt Bitcoins in conversation. I do understand that there's people from past cycles that have certain beliefs on some of these things, but for me, it's just like you should have just bought more XRP. I know like people might hate that I'm saying that, and I'm not an XRP army person or like a Bitcoin maxi or none of that shit. It's just like, should have just bought more XRP, bro. Like, what the fuck is this shit? If you're gonna play with stuff like this, I wish it wouldn't be treated like it's some Bitcoin alternative when it's never had chart performance to prove that ever. So that's why it's dangerous because Bitcoin clearly has been the category winner, whether it be 50, 60, 70, or even 80% of your portfolio. When you zoom out and look at how everything went since 2021, it's been the category winner, right? So unless you're in the trading game and you could get out of something and then roll over into something, get out of something. See, when I sold some of my Bitcoin around the like 49K mark, what was that, the beginning of last year, I rolled all of that over into speculative altcoins, a lot of XRP. I increased my XRP position. Right now, the play was genius for me because even though Bitcoin has doubled, my XRP position has gone up, what, 600%? So it's like, I don't even fucking care, right? That was a professional trade decision, right? But I would not have rolled it all over into Bitcoin Cash, which doesn't have the chart history to prove much of anything, besides just perpetually being down season after season. And I think we're back here again. So I don't really even have the technical play here, just like avoid, right? There's so many other things that you could be putting your attention in. And now if you're one of these people that holds Bitcoin Cash, please don't take this as like I'm calling you out, or like I don't have any problem with anyone holding any altcoins. You do you, right? But the Bitcoin, the BSV situation, the BCH, I'm never going to change my mind on this. It's just, again, a distraction within a distraction within a distraction. Like, we're moving into the Aquarian economy. It's clear that Bitcoin has been selected by BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, all the biggest, the German government, the Chinese government, the Russian government, fucking every government. I don't even care about El Salvador. It's irrelevant. It's like peanuts in conversation to what US holds, right? So whatever's going on in like these random third world countries, like it's really nothing in comparison to what's going to be happening with bigger, much bigger central banks that already are primed and ready to be moving into the Aquarian economy, which will be everything we hope doesn't happen, but it's just, it is what it is. And I think XPay, X money, and the things Elon is doing is kind of getting the ball rolling in that fashion. And all of that happened back in 2021 when he was called the Doge father. He sucked everyone into the market in that facet, and now he's the owner of X. This platform is pretty much where a majority of the crypto conversation is happening. So you have to be cognizant of that. When X money goes live, which will probably be sometime this year, that will be the slow transition into like Alipay. I talked about this in my, what was it, World Reserve Decoded. Some of you may remember that. This has been information my community here has known for a while. So anywho, this is a distraction, but if you're in it and you're stuck, perhaps we do get a move back to the alt season highs of 2021. But remember, in comparison, XRP is up here right now in comparison. So it was just a missed opportunity to diversify into stuff that would have either been category winners for the Aquarian economy, which is the ISO 222 compliant tokens, or just buy Bitcoin. Either or, this was a big swing and miss. So I'll leave it at that. I hope you all appreciated today's honesty and appreciated the gems that I've shared regarding the Bitcoin ETF approval in January of last year and how this could very much be a mimic of that particular play. If for whatever reason, after I post today's podcast and we get a surge in price, maybe right after the Super Bowl like we saw last year, then keep in mind the weekly close, because if we can close green, especially back above 98, 99 would be amazing. Although I do think there'll be a bit of a CME gap if that's the case, but whatever, all in all, structurally, we're looking okay until we were to close below 93. Now, if I post this and we get washed for whatever reason, because there's another Black Swan event, keep 93 on your minds, because if we can hold that level, we haven't completely destroyed structure. And so far on the monthly chart, we're also looking okay. If we were to look at this on the monthly, we would effectively be backtesting the resistance of November, which was the election month, and then also just planting or holding structure in general. As opposed to this, we saw a reversal structure by having this bearish engulfing candle in April. Okay. So in plain English, we would not want a bearish engulfing candle for this month of February. And all I've told you this whole podcast is historically Bitcoin pushes up bullish into the February new moon. Is that my opinion? No, that's the facts in these charts. My opinion was the repeat of the Bitcoin ETF move in January, which if I'm right about, great. If I'm wrong about, I will absolutely update you as soon as possible. But I believe I've provided you with more than enough to chew for the next couple of days. And then for those of you that are interested in the Super Bowl, ritual, feel free to share whatever comes up. I'm definitely not going to be watching it. Maybe I'll rewatch the Kendrick Lamar performance, because he's an artist that I find to be pretty fascinating on the world stage amongst all the sleepers. But I will not be watching the Super Bowl. I did not decode the Super Bowl. I did share that I believed there would be 4 teams. One of them I picked halfway into the season. One of them made it, and it was the Chiefs. And now we have the Eagles playing, which is very symbolic because of the way that the Super Bowl went the year Trump became president the first time. I talked about that in my Year of the Snake Decoded, so watch that if you haven't. And otherwise, I'm going to wrap this one up here. Enjoy your next couple hours in the Matrix. Who knows how this Super Bowl Sunday can go and how it's all going to transpire, but I really would hope that the volatility just calms down a little bit more. And best case scenario would be a little chop relief into next week as we pass through the full moon. Love every single one of you. I'm going to wrap this one up here. Much love.